Hey, fellow murder peeps, I'm your host, Sarah.
And I'm Anthony.
Welcome to Bonding Over Murder, the show where I tell Anthony true crime stories that he's never heard of before, right?
Ah,
My point exactly. Got a case you want us to cover? Email us at bondingovermurder@gmail.com. So before we get into today's topic, I have an update on Robert Pickton.
oh yeah?
So I had a special moment last episode, and I said I didn't find enough, a recent article. Turns out I actually did. It just got lost in all the many different articles that I found related to his case.
Well, what's recent? How recent is this article?
So this is after the hearing in September 2020.
Okay.
So here we go. In September 2020, Pickton, of course, opposed having the exhibits destroyed and complained about being notified last minute, and then his lawyer misled him in the court.
Oh, poor baby. They're going to destroy all my evidence that cost the Canadian government how much? Millions?
70 million.
70, oh God.
Yeah, so a little update or a little reminder for everyone. The RCMP was trying to destroy some of his evidence, just clothes and stuff, because it was taking up space and costing money to keep there. So,
Piggy Palace bitch.
Yeah. He feels the exhibits shouldn't be destroyed for the sake of the victims' families and also to finally, his quote, prosecute the actual person responsible for these unwarranted crimes against humanity, is what he said.
Oh, he didn't do it. Oh.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh, okay. Right on.
So his brother's lawyer says that Dave Pickton doesn't oppose of the destruction of the exhibits, but both brothers are also being sued by some of the victims' families.
Oh.
So no trial date has been set yet for that case. I did try to find another updated article, but here we are. So at least we have an update on that.
That was my evil twin that was cutting the meat off that lady's legs.
Oh, God. So now on to our current topic. Today we're going to be talking about Britain's serial killer, Harold Shipman, a.k.a. Dr. Death.
Oh, Dr. Death. Okay.
Yeah. Every time I say his name, I hear a T where the P is, but it's Shipman.
He sounds like the kind of villain that the Power Rangers would have fought.
Doesn't look like it. He looks like a normal dude. They all look like normal dudes.
Until he gets on his secret cape and outfit, and then he looks like something the Power Rangers would have fought. Let's go, team. We gotta defeat Dr. Death.
That's true, yeah. Or, Marvel.
You'll never defeat me.
I hope that's what he sounded like.
He probably sounded like that. You got a name like Dr. Death.
All right. Harold Frederick, or Fred Shipman, was born in Nottingham, England on January 14th, 1946, as the middle child of three.
Middle one's always the troublemaker.
I guess that is true.
Yeah, some get tattoos, others become Dr. Death.
It's all about perspective. He was considered a bright child who managed to get accepted into the High Pavement Grammar School sixth form in 1957. So a grammar school in England is, from what I understand, like a private elite kind of school. So you take so it says, to get into a grammar school, you had to take an exam when you were 11 years old, also known as the 11 plus. Okay. If you didn't pass this exam, you had to go to the local secondary modern school, which I assume is the difference between going to a prestigious private school versus going to a public school.
It's like a smaller Ivy League.
From what I can understand, yeah.
$10 says they have a headmaster.
Probably.
Pompous little buggers with their headmasters.
Probably. I don't know. I didn't read that. I just had to Google what a grammar school was because I had no idea what the hell that was. So he was considered a good student and was also a gifted athlete in rugby.
Okay.
He became interested in medicine when he watched his mother get her morphine injections for her lung cancer. He was 17 years old when she died in June of 1963 at 42 years old.
Oof, that's rough. Lung cancer. That's a quick way to go. Well,
any cancer is not great.
Yeah, lung cancer is rough for sure.
Yeah. In September of 1965, he enrolled at Leeds University to study medicine. Here is where he would meet his future wife, Primrose May Oxtoby, on a bus during his first year.
Okay. Met him on a bus.
Yeah. They got married in 1966 when Primrose got pregnant with the first of their 4 children. So they have 4 in total.
Okay.
He graduated in 1970, and soon after, he started his career at the Pontefract General Infirmary.
The Pontefract General Infirmary.
Yes.
So like a ER, basically?
Or like a clinic? Like a doctor's clinic?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's kind of what I get from it. He would stay here until taking a position as a GP at Abraham Ormerod Medical Center in Todmorden, West Yorkshire. But then other articles also said Lancashire. But then when I went on Google Maps, it was the same thing. So West Yorkshire and Lancashire kind of in Todmorden go to the same location, apparently.
Well, I can't say I know my English geography too well.
Yeah, all my British listeners, you can tell me if they are basically the same location or not. I would like to get confirmation on that. But he did move there in 1974. So he was fired in 1975 for writing a fake prescription for the opiate Demerol, which is also known as pethidine.
Yeah.
He would take this intravenously for his addiction.
Oh.
So he would write the prescription for himself and then hook himself up to an IV.
He reminds me of the pharmacist from Superstore.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that dude. Oh, I think he's a little too stupid to be murdering people.
I don't know. The Piggy Palace guy didn't seem that smart.
That's true.
Apparently all it takes to murder people is have the cops look the other way and assume your victims evaporate.
Gross. He claimed that he used it for depression and was forced into rehab.
Okay.
He was also fined £600, which is 1,045 Canadian or $853 US.
Doesn't seem like very much, even in the 70s.
This is the 90s.
Oh, I thought you said...
Or no, 70s. Sorry. No, my bad. That's the 75. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I'm listening. You say I don't listen sometimes. This time I was listening. There's even evidence of it.
And there's a Fraser Crane reference just tucked away in there as well, just to add to it.
Oh, no, that was a happy coincidence.
Oh, you literally said it the same way Kelsey Grammer does in the show.
Hello, Seattle. I'm listening. I've even got a dog that won't stop staring at me.
Well, it's more so also a cat.
Yeah, the cat stares too. Everything stares.
Just every animal in the house stares at you continuously.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Even though, he wasn't removed from the GMC, which is their General Medical Council, which I'm assuming is basically a college for doctors like we have here. So they're the ones that regulate if you can keep your license and what your code of ethics are and stuff.
What was the verdict? Was he allowed to keep his license?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, he wasn't removed. He was fined, sent to rehab, and they didn't remove his license because of a report from a psychiatrist saying that it would be catastrophic if he couldn't work.
Well, we're not very far down the rabbit hole yet. Like, so far, all we know, like, I'm assuming this gets worse, but all we know so far is that he was a doctor with an addiction. I mean, stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's kind of, some doctors are like that.
Well, anyone in the healthcare profession, you got to deal with some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah, but he caused a lot of nasty stuff, so I can't really...
I don't know anything about that yet. As far as I'm concerned, Dr. Death is a stand-up citizen.
How can you be a stand-up citizen when your name is Dr. Death?
I'm assuming because it's his alter ego at the moment.
Like Walter White?
No, I mean, I don't know. He just probably hasn't introduced himself as Dr. Death yet.
Well, I believe the newspapers gave him that name.
Okay.
He didn't call himself Dr. Death. He isn't a Bond villain or like...
Well, he probably looks in the mirror and be like, Dr. Death, you're one sexy curmudgeon.
But in a British accent.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Let's just keep going.
2 years later, in 1977, he found work as a GP in Hyde, Greater Manchester, which is 40 minutes away from Todmorden.
Okay.
Just so everyone kind of knows the area. At a clinic called Donnybrook Medical Center.
Okay.
It is believed that this is where his earliest victims may have been.
In Donnybrook.
Donnybrook Medical Center, yeah.
Okay.
He decided to open up his own practice in 1992 called Market Street Surgery after having trouble with coworkers due to his violent mood swings. So he just like, fuck all y'all. You can't deal with my mood swings. I'm just going to go off on my own, I guess.
I know plenty of people with violent mood swings.
Do you?
Yeah, I've had to work with them.
Who's violent mood swings.
Well,
I guess you can't name names, but...
Yeah, and I mean, really, I'm just going to start naming various construction workers that I've worked with in the past. Not that interesting.
Yeah, but he's a doctor. You shouldn't be having violent mood swings when you're trying to help people, right?
Shouldn't be addicted to stuff either. Shouldn't be called Dr. Death. Life happens.
Yeah, no, fair. Here he would build up 3,100 patients for his first clinic.
Okay, so he got a good client base going.
Very good client base. 3,100 patients for just himself. That's a lot of people.
I sense another entrepreneur coming.
Oh,
this guy's gonna pioneer the field. I can't wait to find out what his field is.
Okay, well, you're gonna find out right away. So fast forward to September 7th, 1998. Shipman is arrested for the murder of 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, who was the former mayor of Hyde.
Wait, he gets arrested right away?
So this was 1992 that he got his Market Street surgery, and then in 1998 he got arrested.
Okay. So he just got caught on the first murder? Like, have you found out? Or is this the first murder that exposes the guy?
This is the first murder that exposes him. There's an investigation later showing the extent of
okay. We're going to work our way backwards.
Exactly. That's kind of what I thought. So This is the one that got him arrested, but there were many before this that we'll get into in a little bit. So she was found dead in her home only hours after Shipman visited her.
Oh, okay. A little suspicious.
Yeah. Her family was confused by her death as she was very healthy for her age and the fact that Shipman insisted that no autopsy was necessary. So she died early, even though she was in good health, and then her doctor's like, "Oh no, totes, no autopsy. Yeah, she's fine. She's fine. She natural causes, guys."
You imagine if your mechanic says that? Drop your car off for like an oil change and an inspection, and it's on fire when you get it. He's just like, "Oh no,
it's fine.
It was on fire when I got it." Yeah.
This is how I received the car.
No need to look at this car too closely to wonder why it's on fire.
Yeah, sketch as fuck is what it is. Her daughter went to police suspecting that Shipman forged her mother's will in order to get her estate, which was worth £400,000 or 696,000 Canadian or 550,000 US.
Very subtle. So he visits the old lady. She mysteriously dies.
Yeah.
And now she mysteriously inherits.
Has a new will, which I have what he said. So he forged the will on a battered old typewriter, which read, "I give all my estate, money, and house to my doctor. My family are not in need, and I want to reward him for all the care he has given me and the people of Hyde."
Oh, yeah.
That's sketch as fuck.
Very subtle. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, never mind. This guy's not an entrepreneur. He's just a buffoon.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to buy that? Oh, yeah. I saw her. I was the last person to see her. You totes don't need an autopsy.
Okay, well, if this is how he gets caught, my guess is that we're going to be seeing some incompetence on law enforcement at this point.
Not just on law enforcement, also the healthcare system in general. But right. I get into all that.
There's going to be a lot of people looking the other way if this buffoon is just like randomly murdering people and putting himself on their wills.
Well, I don't think he did that for all of them. But
I know. I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just saying. If you're that stupid, and and you were managed to do a bunch of crimes before then, other people had to have been looking the other way.
Yeah, I'll get into the whole healthcare system and police later, but
not really very crafty, this guy.
I think a lot of it was luck and just not paying attention. Yeah. When he's first questioned about the suspiciously high number of elderly deaths in his practice, the tight-knit community defended him, with one patient remembering him as a lovely man with twinkly eyes, is her exact words.
I mean, Dumbledore had twinkly eyes, and he's Dumbledore.
You cannot compare Harold Shipman to frickin' Dumbledore. He is anti-Dumbledore.
No, they both had twinkly eyes. Birds of a feather.
Yeah, Dumbledore didn't kill anybody.
Wait, no, yeah, he totally killed peeps.
He didn't murder them for his own enjoyment.
There's one point where he walks down the hallway and stares at Voldemort and says, "I admit that merely taking your life won't satisfy me anymore." Dumbledore had some darkness. Voldemort's a horrible
person.
Well, arguably not even a person. Either way, they both had twinkly eyes. Birds of a feather.
Ugh. Gross. Others claimed he was a pillar of the community and a trusted GP.
Oh.
So people defended him, felt he was awesome, and that he was, a very trustworthy stand-up dude.
Yeah, could have even been the headmaster of the old school.
The grammar school?
Yeah.
Despite this support he was receiving, calls were also coming in reporting from all across Hyde and Greater Manchester that other patients of Shipman died in a similar way to Kathleen.
Okay. As in they left their wills to him?
They just died in a suspicious manner.
Right. Doctor shows up and suddenly they died.
Exactly. So later investigations would reveal that he administered a massive overdose of powerful painkillers to hundreds of patients.
I'm pretty sure there was a nurse that was arrested for doing something very similar to this.
I think there's been a couple nurse killers and doctor killers, but I think he's at the top.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, in Edmonton alone, I think I remember that being in the paper. There was a nurse that was arrested for finishing off patients, basically.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because it definitely does happen. I think there's even a show called Nurse Killers that I saw on Netflix.
There's enough of them to make a show out of, then, I guess.
Well, I know my sister was watching it
cool.
On Netflix a while back. But so on one occasion, he prescribed and obtained around 12,000 milligrams of diamorphine, which is also known as heroin.
Okay.
Because I guess they used heroin for pain medication in the day, which I didn't know about.
Morphine, is opium based, I think.
Diamorphine.
Yeah, but heroin is opiates, right? It's an opiate, and morphine's an opiate.
It's just, I didn't think heroin was something that was used in the medical community. I thought that it was always a street drug.
Well, they're all products of the opium, of the poppy.
Yeah.
It's all kind of stuff derived from the same ingredients, just slightly different.
Which is fair. It's just, I never thought that heroin was used in the medical community, but makes sense, I guess.
Not in the way that you're thinking of it. No, they never you don't see doctors like a little spoon and a lighter.
I guess that is heroin.
This twitchy doctor.
Yeah. So 12,000 milligrams.
It's all over me. Sorry, couldn't resist.
It's all good. So 12,000 milligrams is enough to kill around 300 people.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Death.
Yeah. He was convicted on 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery by a jury in Preston County Court on January 31st, 2000, and sentenced to life in prison.
Okay.
He's only one of 20 people in the UK that was told they'd never be released.
Right.
So no even chance of parole for this guy. He was just chucked in for life.
That's
no
right.
Chance.
And the UK doesn't have capital punishment anymore.
No.
So, yeah. No drawing and quartering for this individual.
Yeah. So a quote from Judge Dame Janet Smith, from the trial reads, "I have no doubt that each of your victims smiled and thanked you as she submitted to your deadly ministrations. None of your victims knew yours was no healing touch. None of them knew that in truth you had brought them death which was disguised as their care."
Oh, tell it like it is.
Yeah, pretty powerful statement, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. The total number of his victims was 215.
He killed 215 people?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Confirmed.
Wow.
171 were women and 44 were men.
Wow.
They also suspect he was responsible for another 45 deaths, and an additional 38 deaths where lack of evidence made it impossible to confirm whether he was responsible or not.
Man.
I told you.
That guy must have just been getting squirrely by the end. I mean, because the one he got caught on was just so sloppy. He must have been wanting to get caught or something. That's
one of the theories, is that he did it because he felt he needed to be stopped, is what some people believe.
And that was like his way of circumventing his own mind.
I think, they believe he was active from 1971 to 1998. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah, so I think it's just he got lazy and got cocky. He was like, you know what? Maybe I can start getting shit from people, because he never mutilated or robbed corpses. Like, he just overdosed them and killed them, and that's all he did. Yeah, like, he didn't dismember them, he didn't rob them, he didn't mutilate the body in any way.
I imagine there's something very different going on in these kind of medical killers, where unless they're just, like killing someone is your fix and they found a crafty way to do it and not get caught. But normally you expect kind of like Piggy Palace individuals, just like, there he is in the corner hacking meat off a pair of legs that he found. That seemed perfectly in place for a serial killer. It's like, yep, yep,
yeah,
check.
Makes sense. Yeah,
and he's got the old scrap yard. He's got the old torture implements and piano wire hanging around, and he's got a barn with body parts hanging in it. Yeah, and he's got a mullet. this guy really
Did
fits.
He have a mullet?
I think he looked like trailer trash.
He looked like trailer trash. I can't confirm if he had a mullet or not.
Either way, he fit the bill.
Yes,
Mr. Piggy Palace fit the bill.
Mr. Piggy Palace.
But this, there's got to be something different going on in this particular type of serial killer. I wonder if there's the typical, harming of animals and animal cruelty before he moved on, or if
there was no history that I could find that recorded that. People believe that watching his mother die of lung cancer, what led to his fascination with it, is what some people believe.
Right. Yeah.
We'll never know.
No. Yeah.
We'll never know.
A monster like that, is he born or made? Was he just born with this darkness inside him, or did?
I believe it's nature and nurture. I don't believe you're just born a certain way. I believe you're born with a certain level of, empathy and like subsets of skills and such, and then as you're raised, then those kind of morph into what they become,
right,
as an adult.
Well, like you say, we'll never know.
Exactly. So of the total 215 confirmed, 1 took place in Todmorden, 71 at Donnybrook, and 143 at Market Street Surgery, 1 in 1992, 16 in 1993, 11 in 1994, 30 in 1995, 30 in 1996, 37 in 1997, and 18 in 1998 before his arrest.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but I mean, how did his colleagues not find out about this going on?
It was his solo practice. No one worked with him. Like for the Market Street from 1992 to 1998, he worked solo.
Man, this is why you need Google reviews.
Yeah.
How many stars do you think he'd get?
Well, people felt he was a trusted doctor in the community. People defended him when they found out he was arrested. So, I mean, people thought he was a good doctor.
Wow.
Because his victims were all between the ages of, one article said 47. The BBC article I read was 41. So between 41 to 93 years old were his victims. Oldest being 93, youngest I think was 41. So now, as is customary, we have our moment of silence for the victims that he killed.
Okay.
All right.
What?
He never confessed to any crimes, as they all do.
Oh, he was innocent.
It's never like CSI or Bones where they're like, this is why I did it. This person just drove me over the edge. You never find that out.
You know what it is? He's got an alibi. During the time of these murders, he was in the Piggy Palace.
Across the ocean?
Oh, he was over there having a party. Yep, somebody else. His alter ego.
Just hanging. I don't think he's the type to hang out with Robert Pickton, I'm just going to say.
What are you talking about? Pickton at a palace?
Yeah, well, it's more like a salvage yard and a livestock farm. More so this dude, well, I guess he came from a working family. He, his dad was a lorry driver, which I don't know what that is.
A lorry is a truck.
Okay, his dad was a truck driver then.
That's what the British just call, I think like a 5-ton truck.
Oh, okay.
Like a lorry.
Okay.
And I don't think they would call a lorry like a truck and trailer, like what we call a semi-truck.
Yeah, I forgot to Google that before, but
I think a lorry would be like a single truck, like a no trailer.
Well, they make it sound like it's this kind of like, lower class job.
Well, it's a truck driver. We say the same thing about truckers. No one says trucker in Canada and is just like, oh, that's a prestigious job. The noble order of the truckers. No shade to truckers. I actually drive a truck myself. Just saying. It's not exactly looked at as the prestigious of jobs.
But, it's still good money and stuff. But yeah, so he was a lorry driver and was from a working class family. So
yeah, if there's ever been a working class job, it's been being a lorry driver.
That's fair. He never, as we said, he never confessed any crimes, not even to his wife, who stayed with him through the trials and sentencing, believing he was innocent and only sending one letter of doubt that read, "Tell me everything, no matter what." She still visited him regularly in prison and moved her house closer to him as well.
Oh, yeah.
So she believed in his innocence the whole time, with only one letter kind of, being like, tell me things. Like, if there's things to tell me, please tell me.
Yeah, you'd have to live in some serious denial if, all these deaths were proven that they happened.
Oh, they were together for like 40 years.
I'm just saying.
That's a long time to,
If someone accuses you of like 100+ murders and they actually have the dead people to prove it, like, even if they can't tie you to it, if I don't get substantial evidence on each and every murder, I'm going to be wondering why someone's accusing you of this many murders. It's going to cause doubt no matter what. I mean, some people get framed for murder, but nobody gets framed for 140 different murders.
215.
Sorry, 215 different murders. That's one heck of an elaborate framing.
Right? That's a lot of people.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume you're guilty if that happens, hon.
Yeah, no, that's
that's legit.
Yeah, that's legit. Like, yeah. I'm totally fine with you doing that. I'll do the same. I'll be like, tell me everything, Anthony. Yeah. Did you kill those people? Because I'm going to rat you out the second you say that you did.
Frame me once, shame on you. Frame me 240 times, shame on me.
God, that's so bad. So in February of 2000, Shipman was moved from a prison in Manchester to Her Majesty's Prison, Frankland, in Durham, which is 2.5 hours away.
That's for the fancy pants prisoners.
Yeah, it literally says HMP Frankland, which means Her Majesty's Prison.
Cool.
Yeah. But then in June of 2003, he would be moved again from HMP Frankland to Wakefield Prison, which is 1 hour and 40 minutes away from, Frankland.
Okay.
Here, he would hang himself in a cell on January 13th, 2004. Staff tried to revive him, but he was pronounced dead at 8:10 a.m. at GMT.
Oh, have a good one there, bud. Yeah. How long had he been in prison for before he hung himself?
So he was arrested in 1998, and then he killed himself in 2004. So
not very long.
Not very long.
6 years. No. That's what it goes back to what I was saying about this guy. This guy is probably different than the average serial killer. I'm not saying he's not a monster. Just saying he sounds different. Because you look at our other serial killers we've looked into. First, they plead their innocence. They write books about themselves. They love their notoriety. Mr. Piggy Palace didn't even want his evidence destroyed. He probably saw it as like a memento to his great work.
Trophies, right?
Yeah, it's his trophies, right? Like they're all big-headed assholes.
Yeah.
But this guy,
very quiet and kind of just cold and methodical and just,
you wonder if he had some really just twisted, fucked up like sense of right and wrong, where he probably thought he was doing it right somehow.
Like maybe part of it was like a scientific curiosity, be like, I wonder how easily I can, kill people with heroin.
But like, he was like sloppy on purpose, or the theory that he was sloppy on purpose. I wondered if he hated himself for what he was doing, and that the suicide
he did suffer from depression, according to him. So
this was a weird serial killer. Bit of a strange, odd duck. Even in the serial killer world.
Well, one of the funnier things that I read was he's considered one of the most mediocre serial killers.
Why is that?
Because he's just just a regular dude, just living a regular normal life, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
like the dude didn't really, do anything crazy. Like
other than murdering his clients.
I meant like outwardly known, like Robert Pickton has stealing golf balls and shit, and then H.H. Holmes has running off on multiple wives,
and the murder castle in general,
and the murder castle in general,
staircases to nowhere.
Harold Shipman doesn't really have any of that. He more so was like, I know you probably won't like this comparison, but it makes me think of that scene in V for Vendetta when he administers that stuff that kills the lady, and like he gives her like basically a mercy killing by injecting her with something that kills her while she's asleep. For some reason, it kind of reminds me of that. Obviously, not the same reasons, but
it's similar. But if it's an overdose of an opiate, it probably was a painless death.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that. He's not a very gruesome killer. He's still murdering people like an asshole, but...
His family, including all 4 of his children, attended his funeral, which was held outside normal hours, which I'm assuming means the evening?
The witching hour. Have that
Not
funeral.
Like 3 a.m.
Yeah, 3 a.m. Make sure no one else is around or knows this funeral's happening.
I was thinking around 10 or 11.
Secret, shameful funeral. 3 a.m.
Well, I'm assuming is to keep the media out and the people that were, upset about it, obviously.
I'm going to go with the witching hour funeral.
All right. Well, I didn't find out the actual time, but they just said outside normal hours. So I'm assuming in the evening. But either way, after his arrest, all 4 of his children changed their names.
Makes sense.
I would do the same.
Yeah.
If my father was convicted of 215 murders, yeah, I would do the same.
I would change my name to Cornelius Cumberbatch.
Like Benedict Cumberbatch?
Exactly like Benedict Cumberbatch. But we wouldn't be related.
Do you know who that is?
I don't think so.
You know the name, but you don't know who he actually is.
I don't think it's important. The point is, we wouldn't be related.
But everyone would think you were, so you're like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it'd be.
People would just be like, are you related to Benedict Cumberbatch? You'd be like, who?
I love how you focus in on that, not the fact that my first name would be Cornelius.
Yeah, I just kind of skim over some of the things you say. Because I'm just like, yeah, I know that one's weird, but Cumberbatch is the one that's weirder to me, so I'm going to focus on that.
12 years later, she's got this hard-coded protocol in her mind that just kind of glazes over half the dumb shit I say.
It's true. Either way, Dame Janet Smith, who was the judge during his trial, criticized the police investigation of the murders in July of 2003. So she also called for the radical reform on the way coroners work in England and Wales.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, because it just,
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. How many guys or how many victims were just declared dead from natural causes, and then there's no coroner to back this up, or everyone just takes him at face value, just yep, he said they died, and they died of natural causes. I don't need to know what those were.
Yeah, so at the time, only one doctor's information on a death certificate was relied upon. So one doctor could, say natural causes was what it was, and then no one would just follow up on it.
Lazy.
Because there was no routine verification of the information at the time. And because there was no routine checks, Shipman would actually say natural causes, but write nothing else in detail about what natural causes were.
How did not a single family member be like, hey, doc, you want to verify or clarify why my family member died of natural causes?
No, you don't need it.
This guy only murdered really, really senior citizens?
Between 41 and 93. So some middle-aged people, too.
I don't know how he gets away with that. That's just ridiculous.
Well, we're going to get into it. Normally, for cremations, there were 3 reports that had to be done. Form B was from the attending GP, which in this case is Shipman.
Okay.
Form C was a second GP would confirm and review the information that the first one did.
Equal or higher education. Or,
yes, another doctor would review what the first doctor wrote.
That makes sense.
To make sure that it was correct. Yeah. Then Form D, which is checked again by a medical attendant.
Right. Yeah, that's how it should be.
That's how it should be. But statistics from an audit done at a crematorium in northern England during the late 1990s would show that only 42% of 827 Forms B and C were correctly filled out, and 451 generated inquiries because they were incorrectly filled out.
Great.
Yeah, so 42% were filled out correctly. That should be way higher.
This is why we need bureaucrats, I guess.
Yeah.
If we had some stuffy little bureaucrat fussing about how the forms weren't done correctly, then this would have got caught a lot sooner.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Another thing Shipman used to his advantage was that routine inspections of drug registers and storage facilities lapsed, and there wasn't a system to track the use and disposal of drugs after dispensing. So a drug register, from what I understand, is you need to be registered with the government to be able to distribute and get controlled substances like opioids.
Well, I mean, you can tell it's obviously come a long way, and probably assholes like this are the reason. But when I did my practicum in the hospital, one of the really cool things that I thought was just amazing, because I saw it for my first time. I didn't know anything about it, but the nurses have these medication dispensing drawers that are magnetically locked.
Yeah.
They have to put in their probably their ID code, their information. They have to scan it, and then the drawer pops open, and then the individual little slot opens, and exactly the right amount of medication is distributed.
Yeah, so you don't get more.
You don't get more or less, and you have to act. Every single thing is recorded and documented.
Yeah.
The cabinet even has a camera on it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Should.
Yeah. And then there's even disposal of medications that weren't used, and then they track the disposal. It's very, very tight now.
Yeah, which is good because that wasn't a thing at the time. Shipman was able to get access to these drugs very easily.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't actually have a drug register for controlled,
I can't believe no one was watching this guy. He had an addiction. How's no one paying attention to drugs going missing around this guy?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. The GMC is just, go get him back to work because the psychiatrist said it'd be catastrophic if he couldn't work.
Just the universal shrug emoji. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. So despite so complaints were actually made against Shipman that never triggered the GMC to do an assessment on him.
Okay.
So in one complaint for failure to visit in 1992 and another in 1995 about incorrect treatment were never looked into by the GMC.
Oh, okay.
So, there were complaints about him during the time he was active that just were never followed up on. There was one case in 1989, however, that was settled for negligence, with Shipman having to pay a large 6-figure sum to the person.
Oh.
So he did get sued for one, but the GMC just never did an assessment on him as a doctor.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, they're the governing body for the doctors, so they decide who has a license to be a doctor and who doesn't, and they just never looked into these complaints, even though, he had a history of writing a fake prescription. He had people saying failure to visit, which I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Oh, okay.
But there were also no systems in place to help the patients. No one monitored mortality rates, and there was no system that assessed the standards of records or recorded care given to deceased patients at the time.
That seems weird.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird too, but I guess, documentation wasn't,
you take for granted what you have and you assume, like, why didn't you always have these systems in place, right?
Yeah.
Progression has to take time to progress.
We're a reactive society, not a proactive society, so shit like this doesn't usually change until something happens to make it change.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's usually how it goes with humans, but that's just human nature. There was also no system in place that provided adequate objective evidence about clinical performance. And clinical audits were voluntary and narrow in their focus. So basically, a doctor could refuse to have an audit done on him, and that's totally within his right. And even if they do the audit, they're not looking at every aspect of his clinical performance. They're just looking at certain aspects.
I know I've said this earlier, but I wish I could just do that with speeding tickets. I choose not to receive this inspection from you at this time, officer.
Yeah, come back during the rainy season.
Yeah, come back during the rainy season. Great.
Yeah, this is just the British version of that.
Yeah.
Multiple inquiries were made about the health system, which led to reforms being made under the Coroners and Justice Act 2009, which include increased transparency with bereaved families who can now discuss any concerns they have about the death of their loved one.
Oh, okay.
So they can actually, talk about it with the doctors and stuff.
So like more counseling support, which is good.
Yeah. Improved the quality and accuracy of medical certificates on cause of death, also known as MCCDs. So they're just being more, there's more scrutiny being these being looked over, I guess.
Okay.
And then the introduction of medical scrutiny to all deaths that don't require a coroner's post-mortem or inquest. So if there's no autopsy or post-mortem done on a person, then there will be more medical scrutiny on those particular deaths.
We would hope so. Yeah. Basically, if there's a mystery death, we will look into it.
Well, it's more so people that, they say natural causes, and then the natural causes you don't need to do an autopsy on if that's what the person died of. That's more so what cases are going to get more medical scrutiny is kind of what I take from it.
Right.
The ones that are getting postmortems and autopsies and stuff, those ones are already, getting a lot of detail looked into them.
Right.
Whereas the just natural causes people, not as much, because, there's no need for an autopsy when you die of natural causes.
Right.
It also allows medical examiners to report matters of a clinical governance nature to support local learning and changes to practice and procedures. So it's, it alerts doctors and GPs and stuff to the changes of practice and procedures, so that way they can, implement them in their practice.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then also information on public health surveillance will be provided to a director of public health when requested. So I'm assuming what that means basically is that when, an audit is done, it is involuntary and you have to give them everything they request, is kind of what I get from that.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Today, Shipman still affects many facets of medicine, even though he killed himself in 2004, one of which is assisted suicide. Right now, the Margot MacDonald Assisted Suicide Scotland Bill, which would allow assisted suicides in very limited circumstances, is having a hard time being passed since no one wants to be labeled as Dr. Death. So right now in the UK, they have the doctrine of double effect, which states if a family member or doctor deliberately assists or encourages a person to kill themselves, it's considered assisted suicide. Also, if they deliberately end someone's life to get rid of their suffering, that's euthanasia, and both cases are currently illegal in the UK.
Illegal or legal?
Illegal.
Oh, they're illegal. Okay.
They're illegal, which is what that new bill,
right,
the Margot MacDonald one, would kind of replace, as far as I understand.
Right. I mean, apart from the concerns of Dr. Deaths walking around, there's also, religious concerns that a lot of people have with suicide. So,
But this is mainly focused on the fact that some dude, killed 215 or more people via overdose.
Because he's a douche.
So Robert Pickton and H.H. Holmes are legendary douchebags. He is I'm going to say S-class, which is the highest.
Why? This guy was killing people.
He killed so many people.
Well, we're talking solid numbers, sure, but
I'm talking solid numbers. That's a lot of people.
But I will point out they were probably all painless deaths, whereas the Piggy Palace and the Murder Castle were the amount of suffering that you had from both those guys.
Okay, so based on numbers, he's S-class, but based on brutality, he's just a normal douchebag.
Okay.
Or he's just slightly above average douchebag as far as brutality goes, because he didn't brutalize any of his victims. He literally just OD'd them and then left and said they died of natural causes.
Right. Yeah.
It also states that a morally sound action with an unintended negative side effect is allowed. So, for example, giving a terminally ill patient morphine to alleviate pain that is not intended to kill, even though it shortens their life, is legal.
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of this kind of gray area.
Yeah, I can see where
Yeah, so, I feel like it's too gray. Somebody could say, I totally didn't intend to kill this person. I wanted to alleviate their pain, when in fact, they might have.
Right.
So I feel like there's kind of a gray area. There should be more clear-cut laws on that, I think.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then that's it. So, long story short, some douchebag doctor killed hundreds of people and got caught by stupidly trying to forge an elderly woman's will.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get caught. That's just ridiculous.
I think he's just a cocky bastard. They all are.
Yeah.
They all, when they operate for such a long period of time, they're like, I'm invincible.
Knuckleheads.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for listening to our podcast and for all of your feedback.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Hope the sound quality is better this time, folks. Let me know if it's not, and I'll fix it.
Sound quality.
Check out our website, bondingovermurder.info, and find us on Instagram at bondingovermurderpodcast to hang out and get new episode info.
Yeah.
Just to see what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, we're going usually bi-weekly, right? Like you like to release a new episode once every 2 weeks?
Yeah, but Instagram I'm on all the time, so you can check me out there.
Cool beans.
And then...
And don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
which is Spotify, Google, Breaker, Radio Public, and we have our RSS feed for all of your podcast listening apps on our website.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, people. I'm not really the technological one here.
He's an old man at heart when it comes to technology.
I'm also an old man in the brain.
No, I think you're an average millennial in the brain, just not technology-wise.
I strive to be an average millennial in the brain. Very good.
Either way, bye, guys.
Bye.
They're not looking at every aspect of his clinical performance. They're just looking at certain aspects.
I know I've said this earlier, but I wish I could just do that with speeding tickets. I choose not to receive this inspection from you at this time, officer.
Yeah, come back during the rainy season.
Yeah, come back during the rainy season. Great.
Yeah, this is just the British version of that.
Yeah.
Multiple inquiries were made about the health system, which led to reforms being made under the Coroners and Justice Act 2009, which include increased transparency with bereaved families who can now discuss any concerns they have about the death of their loved one.
Oh, okay.
So they can actually, talk about it with the doctors and stuff now.
So like more counseling support, which is good.
Yeah. Improved the quality and accuracy of medical certificates on cause of death, also known as MCCDs. So they're just being more, there's more scrutiny being these being looked over, I guess.
Okay.
And then the introduction of medical scrutiny to all deaths that don't require a coroner's post-mortem or inquest. So if there's no autopsy or post-mortem done on a person, then there will be more medical scrutiny on those particular deaths.
We would hope so. Yeah. Basically, if there's a mystery death, we will look into it.
Well, it's more so people that, they say natural causes, and then the natural causes you don't need to do an autopsy on if that's what the person died of. That's more so what cases are going to get more medical scrutiny is kind of what I take from it.
Right.
The ones that are getting postmortems and autopsies and stuff, those ones are already, getting a lot of detail looked into them.
Right.
Whereas the just natural causes people, not as much, because, there's no need for an autopsy when you die of natural causes.
Right.
It also allows medical examiners to report matters of a clinical governance nature to support local learning and changes to practice and procedures. So it's, it alerts doctors and GPs and stuff to the changes of practice and procedures, so that way they can, implement them in the practice.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then also information on public health surveillance will be provided to a director of public health when requested. So I'm assuming what that means basically is that when, an audit is done, it is involuntary and you have to give them everything they request, is kind of what I get from that.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Today, Shipman still affects many facets of medicine, even though he killed himself in 2004, one of which is assisted suicide. Right now, the Margot MacDonald Assisted Suicide Scotland Bill, which would allow assisted suicides in very limited circumstances, is having a hard time being passed since no one wants to be labeled as Dr. Death. So right now in the UK, they have the doctrine of double effect, which states if a family member or doctor deliberately assists or encourages a person to kill themselves, it's considered assisted suicide. Also, if they deliberately end someone's life to get rid of their suffering, that's euthanasia, and both cases are currently illegal in the UK.
Illegal or legal?
Illegal.
Oh, they're illegal. Okay.
They're illegal, which is what that new bill,
right?
The Margot MacDonald one, would kind of replace, as far as I understand.
Right. I mean, apart from the concerns of Dr. Deaths walking around, there's also, religious concerns that a lot of people have with suicide. So,
But this is mainly focused on the fact that some dude, killed 215 or more people via overdose.
Because he's a douche.
So Robert Pickton and H.H. Holmes are legendary douchebags. He is like, I'm going to say S class, which is like the highest.
Why? This guy was killing people.
He killed so many people.
Well, we're talking solid numbers, sure, but
I'm talking solid numbers. That's a lot of people.
But I will point out they were probably all painless deaths, whereas the Piggy Palace and the Murder Castle, where the amount of suffering that you had from both those guys.
Okay, so based on numbers, he's S-class, but based on brutality, he's just a normal douchebag.
Okay.
Or he's just slightly above. He's above average douchebag as far as brutality goes, because he didn't brutalize any of his victims. He literally just OD'd them and then left and said they died of natural causes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It also states that a morally sound action with an unintended negative side effect is allowed. So, for example, giving a terminally ill patient morphine to alleviate pain that is not intended to kill, even though it shortens their life, is legal.
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of this kind of gray area.
Yeah, I can see where
Yeah, so I feel like it's too gray. Somebody could say, I totally didn't intend to kill this person. I wanted to alleviate their pain, when in fact, they might have.
Right.
So I feel like there's kind of a gray area. There should be more clear-cut laws on that, I think.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then that's it. So, long story short, some douchebag doctor killed hundreds of people and got caught by stupidly trying to forge an elderly woman's will.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get caught. That's just ridiculous.
I think he's just a cocky bastard. They all are.
Yeah.
They all, when they operate for such a long period of time, they're like, I'm invincible.
Knuckleheads.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for listening to our podcast and for all of your feedback.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Hope the sound quality is better this time, folks. Let me know if it's not, and I'll fix it.
Sound quality.
Check out our website, bondingovermurder.info, and find us on Instagram at bondingovermurderpodcast to hang out and get new episode info.
Yeah.
Just to see what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, we're going usually bi-weekly, right? Like you like to release a new episode once every 2 weeks?
Yeah, but Instagram I'm on all the time, so you can check me out there.
Cool beans.
And
don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Which is Spotify, Google, Breaker, Radio Public, and we have our RSS feed for all of your podcast listening apps on our website.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, people. I'm not really the technological one here.
He's an old man at heart when it comes to technology.
I'm also an old man in the brain.
No, I think you're an average millennial in the brain, just not technology-wise.
I strive to be an average millennial in the brain. Very good.
Either way, bye, guys.
Bye.